This will sound very strange, but the death of the first pope to step down from the office of the papacy in over 600 years was a major prophetic sign from the righteous Christian God of the Bible that hints at how Joe Biden will step down, which will pave the way for Barack Obama to become the president again. In this video, I will explain much more regarding this, as well as how it connects to the death of former First Lady Rosalind Carter and the day that Joe Biden infamously fell down the steps of his Air Force plane, as well as the Alaska Airlines incident in which the door of the plane fell off. And much more will be explained in this most profound video, and how it all is part of this prediction that on February 20th, 2024, Joe Biden will step down and Michelle Obama will become the 47th president. This video is being recorded and posted before it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on February 3rd, 2024. The date that this video was posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. All right, what you are looking at in this diagram is truly a beautiful thing. Words can't describe how amazing this diagram is, and I look forward to explaining this to you. This video is predicting that Joseph Biden will step down from the president's office on February 20th, 2024, and then Michelle Obama will become the 47th president. This video is being recorded before it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on February 3rd. Her death in a plane crash will lead to her replacement with Michelle Obama as the vice president, and then it is predicted, as I am saying in this video and diagram, that she will become the 47th president when Joseph Biden, will step down on February 20th, to be precise, 2024. All right, to begin, this video will be focused on this. In a way, I mean, it's a big picture of signs. God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections is an interconnected web. However, one of the main things about this diagram is this event here, which was the day that Pope Benedict died on, oops, that is a typo. It should say December 31st, 2022. I'm just going to correct that. All right, as I was saying, Pope Benedict died on December 31st, 2022, and this is very, very important. The first thing to say is the connection here of 113% of a year is very, very relevant, because God is using the numbers 11 and 3, or rather a combination of 2 1s and a 3 in his signs to symbolize, or rather hint at, Joseph Biden. Because Joseph in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, a very important story within the book of Genesis, Joseph was the 11th son of the third patriarch. And that is and in God's signs, he is using a play on this with these combinations of 2 1s and a 3 to hint at the 11th son of the third patriarch, Joseph. Right? It was Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, who had 12 sons, the 11th of which was Joseph. So that's why 11 and 3, and we will get into more regarding some supporting evidence for the fact that God is using this combination of 11 and 3 in his signs. So this is astounding. Not only this, but the Pope's first name, before he changed his name, the Pope's real name is Joseph Ratzinger. So from this sign involving Joseph, we have 113% of a year to this big date in which it is predicted that Joseph Biden will step down. That's huge, but there's more to this. And this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination, and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And so we'll have more second and third witnesses to this connection, but also to the fact that God pairs 11 and 3 to hint at the 11th son of the third patriarch, Joseph. And he's using this to identify also specifically the date that Joseph Biden will step down. Now, what was Pope Benedict known for? The thing that he was known for the most, by far, was being the first pope to step down, to resign, the first one to do so in 600 years. And that is because it hints at how Joseph Biden will step down and resign. And that is the huge significance of this 113% of a year connection between these two Joseph signs. Well, this sign hasn't happened yet, but this event from this sign here is because Joseph Biden will step down just like Joseph Ratzinger stepped down. Now, the stepping down of Joseph Ratzinger paved the way for the first of the two antichrists described in chapter 13 of Revelation to become Pope. Pope Francis, the first of the two antichrists, was able to become the Pope after Joseph Ratzinger stepped down. Likewise, the second of the two antichrists, Barack Obama, the false prophet described in Revelation chapter 13, will become the president again through Joseph Biden stepping down. And I knew this would be the case long before Joseph Biden shoplifted the referendum back in the year that ends with the number 20. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? Long before the referendum, it was known that the reason why Joseph Biden was running is because eventually he would step down and then make way for the second of the two antichrists, Barack Obama. Two things to say for those that are interested in Bible prophecy and are Christian. One, first of all, a lot of people mix the order up because of this false understanding of the false prophet and thinking that this must be the Pope because he's a religious guy. It's something to that effect, but this is completely nonsense. There's nothing to back that up at all, and furthermore, it should have been very clear, just as it was to the reformers. Yes, there wouldn't have been a Protestant Reformation had it not been for the knowledge that the Pope is the Antichrist. This knowledge has been lost right near the end by the quote-unquote Christians of today because it's all part of the plan, if you will, because we are now in the end times and many people will be fooled, and that is the point. But anyway, Bible prophecy is very, very clear that the Pope is the Antichrist from the text. Okay, it's beyond clear. This should be easily known. It's a mystery to me how this isn't known anymore. And the second thing, too, that's part of the problem is it's also rooted in the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day, which is once saved, always saved in Calvinism. But how it's connected is another story. But it relates to this misunderstanding of what Paul is talking about in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, when he describes what is holding back the Antichrist. People, the modern interpretation is that it is the Holy Spirit, but this is not the case. Paul is speaking cryptically, and he tells the Thessalonians that they know full well what he's talking about. So why is he speaking cryptically? Well, it's because anyone in possession of the letter that he wrote would be in danger if he spoke plainly. And he referred to it as being a what and a he. How can the Holy Spirit be a what and a he? He is referring to the Caesar moving the capital of Rome to Constantinople, which enabled the bishops of Rome to rise to power. All right. So that is also what throws people off. So there you go. I wanted to say that for many years, the identities of the two antichrists have been revealed. In fact, for centuries, the Pope has been revealed, but for many, many years now, God has been communicating through his prophetic signs that Barack Obama is the second of the two antichrists. All right. Of course, this prediction will prove the matter, and that is the purpose of this prediction that is from God. Make no mistake. The reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that Barack Obama is the Antichrist. Obviously, that'll be the case when the prediction comes to pass. You will have missed entirely the point of the prediction from God if you do not appreciate this after the fact that the prediction comes to pass. All right, but we're going to get into some much more interesting information here. But first, I'm going to read something that I wrote regarding this stepping down of Joseph Ratzinger and its connection to Joseph Biden. Okay, as I wrote a few months ago, back in October, the thing that Pope Benedict XVI was most known for, was for being the first pope to step down from the office of the papacy in 600 years. He did so due to his age and ability to perform his duties. Okay, I'll repeat that. He did this because of his age and ability to perform his duties. Likewise, acting President Biden will step down from the office of the presidency due to his age and ability to perform his duties. This is the reason why Joseph Biden has been losing his mind. It was all designed by God for this purpose, so that he would step down due to his age and ability to perform his duties, so that he could make his old pal Barack Obama the president again. Before that, though, Michelle Obama will become the president. Okay. Through switching the orders of the I, the letter I, and the letter E, and the D and the N, Benedict hints at Biden. Isn't that something? It's like an anagram. Benedict hints at Biden. It's really almost the same word. You just switch a couple of letters around. It's amazing. Therefore, the office of the Pope Benedict hints at the office of the President Biden. Biden is predicted to step down. Okay, let's see. I'm going to get into that in a second. I'm just going to skip that sentence. Likewise, okay, as I said a minute ago, Benedict's resignation paved the way for the first of the two antichrists described in Bible prophecy, Pope Francis, to replace him. And likewise, Biden's resignation will pave the way for the second of the two antichrists, Barack Obama, to replace him. Obama was the 44th president, and Benedict, the 16th, hints at this, as 16 is 4 times 4, and God uses the number 16 in his signs to hint at the 4 times 4 and 44th president. Benedict's full name Joseph Aloysius Ratzinger in English gematria. And if you don't know what gematria is, Roman, Greek, and Hebrew letters are also numbers, and as such, names and words can be converted into a numeric value. And Joseph Aloysius Ratzinger in English gematria is 1776. In other words, 1776, the year that America was born, and 1776 equals 4 times 444. In other words, from the beginning of the nation, God knew that the 44th president would be the Antichrist. But anyway, this is the point of the name Joseph Aloysius Ratzinger. It is a hidden secret or a hidden clue that Joseph Biden will step down just like Joseph Ratzinger and pave the way for the 44th president. All right, now, Joseph Ratzinger, not Joseph Aloysius Ratzinger, but Joseph Ratzinger in simple English gematria equals 191. And God uses the number 191 in his signs to hint at the warning of judgment on 9/11 in 2001. This is why the numbers 9 and 11 are paired together throughout God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. And this is why, from the day that Pope Benedict died, it is 11 months and 19 days to the date 1119, which hints at 9/11, as does the name Joseph Ratzinger. Okay, that's astounding in itself. The prophetic sign, which, by the way, was expected in advance, this connection was known in advance. The sign that occurred on this day was the death of Rosalind Carter. I'll explain a little bit in a second, but her name in gematria equals 990. And 990 equals, or is, 9 times 110. And God frequently pairs the numbers 9 and 110 together in his signs to confirm the signs and connections. And I've explained this countless times in the other videos, so I won't explain it again here by playing a 7-minute clip or so to explain this. But on 9/11, it was 110 stories that collapsed and cracked the foundation of Federal Hall on Wall Street, which was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security. And I'll just cut it off there, okay? So anyway, you'll take my word for it. 990 is amazing because this date hints at 9/11, and her name equals a pairing of numbers that hint at 9/11. Also, 990 is the 44th triangular number. In a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 44th row is 990. This hints at the 44th president. Now, Rosalind Carter died in the 4th state, and that isn't trivial. The Carters, her and Jimmy Carter, were well known for being from Georgia. Unlike any other presidential couple, they are associated with a particular state. Jimmy Carter was the Georgia governor president. He was a farmer from Georgia. I mean, this should go without saying, but for maybe those that are a little young and don't know, and even this is even before my time even, but I know this, Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter are associated with the 4th state. In fact, they lived their entire lives, except for when they were in Washington, D.C., in a small town, the same small town in Georgia. Okay, so enough said. She died in the 4th state. A few days later, at her funeral, 4 former first ladies attended. And this included Michelle Obama, and the news media reported how she hitched a ride with Joe Biden, which was a hint at how she will hitch a ride through Joe Biden when he appoints her as vice president after it is predicted Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. And by the way, Kamala Harris was part of the sign at the funeral because she flew to it in her Air Force 2 plane from the West Coast. And her death will be in her flight from the West Coast back to D.C. Okay, so anyway, she hitched a ride with Joe Biden, and then, she will hitch a ride with Joe Biden, and then Joe Biden will step down and she will become the president. All right. And furthermore, she is a former first lady. And another part of the story was how Hillary Clinton was there. And Hillary Clinton is this unusual character in history, being the first and only, so far anyway, former first lady that had ambitions for the White House. Just like Michelle Obama will. And that's the other hint. Hillary Clinton also hitched a ride with Joe Biden on his Air Force plane. Anyway, the fourth state and 4 former first ladies, and her name equaling the 44th triangular number is all a hint at the 44th president. However, on this same day, this 11/19 date, the big, the big football news story, and for those that don't know, God uses sports signs in his signs, I should say, big time. He uses sports signs big time. In fact, I do not believe that anyone that does not know sports would be able to appreciate or put together his big picture of signs. They are that important. For sure. I was blessed to have a father who was a sports spectator fan. He was a sports fan, big time. So I grew up in that environment, and I know sports because of it. And what I mean is watching sports. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. You know what I mean. So anyway, I can now pay attention to these sports signs, which are very, very important. And if you think about it, this would be the reason why he uses sports signs is there's a number of reasons, but it's a very convenient way to communicate signs. First of all, there's so much involved. There's so many numbers, different players, cities, mascot, team names, etc. All of these things are symbolism. For example, the lions. The Messiah in Bible prophecy is said to be a descendant of the tribe of Judah, which is symbolized by the lion. And there's other prophecy involving the lion. And lion is also symbolic of king. And the Messiah, Jesus Christ, is the King of Kings. All right, but anyway, on this day, the Lions staged a 4th quarter comeback. In other words, in the last quarter of the game, they came from behind and won the game. But this was newsworthy, especially because this quarterback for the Lions had thrown 4 interceptions, 4 turnovers. And if you don't know, a turnover is when a team unintentionally turns the possession of the ball over to the other team. That is because there will be 4 turnovers in the White House. Kamala Harris will die, Michelle Obama will replace her, then Joe Biden will step down, she will replace Biden, she will appoint Barack Obama as the vice president, and then Michelle Obama will step down and Barack Obama will become the president. Okay, so that's what's hinted at. But he is the 44th president, and he will make a comeback, which is why we had this 4th quarter comeback after 4 turnovers on the day that Rosalind Carter, the 44th triangular name, died in the 4th state, which later led to 4 former first ladies attending her funeral. All right, so you get the idea here. This is astounding. Now, and turning over is part of this Pope Benedict stepping down, because that turned over the Pope's office, which led to the first Antichrist coming to power, right? And that's why 11 months and 19 days gets us the 11/19 date and this turnover sign. But also, one last thing, the Lions ended up scoring 31 points, and this combined with the 4th quarter comeback hints at Isaiah chapter 31, verse 4, which speaks of the lion and the Lord returning like a lion and coming down like a lion and fighting for his holy mountain, Mount Zion in Jerusalem, at the end of the age. And then, by the way, defeating the Antichrist, who is described in the latter part of this prophecy in Isaiah chapter 31. And by the way, this prophecy begins with woe to those who go down to Egypt, which is why the 44th president, right after becoming the president, went down to Cairo, Egypt, to deliver his famous speech in which he said that America is no longer a Christian nation. He said this to the Muslim world. All right, well, anyway, let's move on, because, this is amazing here. This is completely confirmed. Now, one thing I want to add here before moving on, actually, is Rosalind Carter hints at Welcome Back Carter, which is why the comeback sign on this day too. Okay, so Carter hints at Cotter. There was a famous TV show in the 1970s titled Welcome Back, Cotter. Okay? There's lots to this, and I explain it in the Welcome Back, Cotter sign video. Make sure you watch that video. It's amazing. This date here, though, is connects to all of that. Okay, I'll explain it in the other video, though. All right? Now, actually, I should put it here. It's actually exactly 7 weeks after this. Sign right here to this date. But it's preceded by 62 weeks to the 9/11 date in 2022. But I won't explain any more than that, because that would be to do the video all over again, which I've already made. Anyway, 62 weeks followed by 7 weeks is the period of time in the most central prophecy in the Bible in Daniel chapter 9 that regards the timing of the Antichrist and the end times period. All right, so anyway, in other words, what I am saying is that this connects to Welcome Back, Cotter, but you'll find out in the Welcome Back, Cotter video. All right, now we have this 11 months and 19 days connection to 1119, and it is followed by 1 month and 19 days to this date here. All right. Before going there, though, let's finish up some 9/11 things here, because, all right, so we had Joseph Ratzinger hint at 191, which is symbolic of 9/11. So is the 11 months and 19 days to the 1119 date. All right. Furthermore, Rosalind Carter's name hinted at 9/11. Now, this date here was exactly 1,111 days after Joseph Biden shoplifted the referendum. This was the day of the referendum, and it was the day 11/3. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Joseph is hinted at in God's signs, Joseph Biden, through combinations of 11 and 3, because the 11th son of the third patriarch was Joseph. And that's why Joseph Biden shoplifted the referendum on the date 11/3. The date 11/3 was in turn exactly 999 weeks after 9/11, which involved plane crashes, which is how the Antichrist will come to power again, the 44th president, through a plane crash, Kamala Harris's plane crash, predicted plane crash. And on 9/11, Flight 93 crashed. This was the flight that crashed into the field in Pennsylvania. Flight 93 hints at 3 nines. The number 9 is the most important number in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, as from the Bible, it symbolizes God's judgment. This is one thing that Flight 93 hints at, 3 nines. And on Flight 93, 44 people died, which hints at the 44th president. There's much more to this, which I explain in other videos. I just want to confirm a second witness for this 999 weeks connection, which pairs with this following connection of 1,111 days. Obviously, this is a pairing of 9 and 11 that hints at 9/11, and the trail begins on 9/11, and it ends, this trail goes to the date 1119, which hints at 9/11. In other words, this is amazing beyond words, especially given that the sign on the day was Rosalind Carter and her name hints at 9/11. Now here is another thing. 9/11 is exactly 1,171 weeks to the date it is predicted that Joseph Biden will step down and Michelle Obama will become the president, which will lead to the Antichrist becoming the president. The date 220 hints at 220, which is a 9/11 number, because on 9/11 there were two towers that were 110 stories high, two times that collapsed, and 2 times 110 is 220. Hence the date 220 and the connection to 9/11. In other words, this warning of judgment that God did on 9/11 is being followed up with this event that will lead to the rise of the Antichrist. The reason for the relevance of 1,171 weeks is that it hints at this. The 1,117th word in Strong's Hebrew Old Testament Concordance, which is the word Bama, capital B, proper noun, which is named after a high place. The name, in Luke 10:18, Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, which is what will be symbolized when Kamala Harris will fall from the sky and then be replaced with Barack Obama, the Antichrist. So Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, and the name Barack Obama in Hebrew means lightning from heaven. Barak in Hebrew means lightning. Bama means high place, which in the Bible is a euphemism for the false religious worship that the Jews would conduct on the tops of mountains. And that's why the planes struck the high place, the tops of these towers. But also the high place is a metaphor in the Bible for heaven, as, for example, it says that Lucifer fell from the high place, a metaphor for heaven. And in Aramaic, the language Jesus would have spoken, the word from is O. And so Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying when he said this, or he knew that he said this anyway, knowing that there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and it would confuse us, or he was revealing the identity of the Antichrist. Obviously, the latter option is the only one that makes any sense. And so Jesus was revealing the identity of the Antichrist back in the 1st century. So much for the interpretation of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 that is rooted in the false heretical doctrine that is the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day, once saved, always saved. Calvinism and free grace, sovereign grace and dispensationalism. And by the way, if you are a Christian, make sure you watch the most important video on this channel titled the 23 Church Signs video. All right, obviously you're going to want to watch that video, especially when the prediction comes to pass. So this is what 1,171 weeks hints at. It hints at Barack Obama. But also, 1,171 is the 193rd prime number, and the 193 is the 44th prime number. And so Barack Obama, the 44th president, is hidden in this number as well. It's astounding. All right. Now, let's go up here. From this 11/19 date, it is exactly 4 times 8 months, which hints at the 48th president. Barack Obama will be the 48th president. Michelle Obama will be the 47th president. So it was exactly 4 times 8 months after Joe Biden fell down the steps of his Air Force plane. This is because this hints at Joe Biden stepping down after Kamala Harris falls from the sky in her Air Force plane. So everyone knows that Joe Biden fell down the steps of his plane, and ever since then he's been making these gaffes in which he's been falling down a few other times. By the way, they've also been prophetic signs. But the reason for this is that it was designed by God to hint at what I just hinted at. Joe Biden falling down the steps of his plane hints at him stepping down after Kamala Harris will fall from the sky in her Air Force plane. Okay, 4 times 8 months is also 32 months. And that's because Obama in simple English gematria equals 32. 32 is also a reflection of 23, which is Obama's number. The basketball president wore jersey 23 when he played basketball in high school. Also, the 32nd prime number is 131, and the 131st word in Strong's Greek New Testament Concordance is the word blood disease, which is what one gets when they take the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing, and you know what I'm talking about, the thing that you can't talk about. And also the 32nd president was the only president to serve more than 2 terms, just like Barack Obama will serve more than 2 terms. Okay, now the day that Biden fell down his steps of his plane was 4 plus 4 days, which hints at the 44th president. And again, this is followed by a hint at the 48th president. It was 4 plus 4 days after the date 3/11 in 2021. This was when it was first realized that God was using combinations of 3 and 1 to point to Joseph Biden because of the 11th son of the 3rd patriarch, Joseph. This was the day that he made his first public address after having shoplifted the White House. And it was the day of his big thing speech. He gave a long, big speech about the thing. All right? And there's lots more to be said about how this connects to other signs, but that's for other videos. All right, so we return back to this 11/19 date. Okay? I'm just looking at, did I explain this? This quarterback, by the way, was prophetic. He was the quarterback in the prophetic 9/11 Super Bowl. Again, this date was all about 9/11, and I just demonstrated how it connects to 9/11. This quarterback played for the Rams at the time. He was the Lions in this game, but back in 2019, in February, he was in the 9/11 Super Bowl, and that's because it was 17 years after the game-winning drive by Tom Brady from the 17-yard line with the score tied at 17-17, shortly after 9/11, when 2 planes struck the 2 towers 17 minutes apart. Anyway, and Tom Brady went into the Super Bowl 17 years later with 17 Super Bowl records and 9 of the 11 Super Bowls that the Patriots had been in. All right, so anyway, you get the idea. I'm just scratching the surface, but this was the 9/11 Super Bowl, and this was the quarterback in that Super Bowl. Anyway, he's number 16, and that also hints at 4 times 4. I forgot to mention all of that. And he was the guy that threw the 4 turnovers and staged the 4th quarter comeback. And his number hints at 4 times 4 as well. All right, so anyway, we had, as I was saying, these 9/11 connections to the date 11/19 here, which in itself hints at 9/11. And it, again, was preceded by 11 months and 19 days and is followed by 1 month and 19 days, which also, of course, hints at 9/11. And that gets us to this date here, which is the day of this plane crash sign. It was the day of the Alaska Airlines door sign. You probably know about this event, this incident, when the door of the plane fell off into the residential neighborhood of Portland. Now, the big story about this sign is the geographical location, because it is in Oregon near the coast, and this hints at the Great American Eclipse Judgment Warning sign in 2017 that traversed the country. The path of totality entered the U.S. through Oregon. All right, that's why God pointed to it. The door was a mystery what had happened to it for a couple of days until January 7th. So the big prophetic date was January 7th because this was the day that the door was discovered. The day of the door falling too was also relevant, as will be explained in the Alaska Airlines video. But anyway, this was the day also, January 7th, and it was reported to the NTSB, and God uses the NTSB in his signs. It was reported on this day as being discovered. But this was also the day that Alaska Airlines announced that it had grounded 65 of its planes. 65 is the 23rd semi-prime number, which is a number that is only divisible by 2 other prime numbers. God uses semi-prime numbers as well. And this was announced that it was affecting 23,000 passengers, and on this same day, United Airlines announced it had canceled 230 flights. That's a lot of 23s, right? And that's because the number of the Antichrist is 23, as I said, but also to confirm his signs and connections, God pairs certain numbers together. And if we think about it, as I said earlier, it's required second and third witnesses, but a simple way in which God would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 23 and 44. And the reason why I know this is because I have been studying God's big picture of signs, patterns, and connections from morning until night for more than full-time hours for 6 years. But it's very simple. The 44th president wore jersey 23. He's also the basketball president. All right, and that's why from this date it is 44 days to the date it is predicted that Joe Biden will step down and Michelle Obama will become the president, which will lead to Barack Obama, the 44th president, becoming the president again. That said, it is also amazing beyond words that this connection is also 1 month and 13 days. And that is another pairing of 2 1s and a 3 that hints at the 11th son of the third patriarch, Joseph, which hints at Joseph Biden. The big day that has been planned for all along, the day that he will step down on February 20th, 2024. All right, believe it or not, the most astounding connection of all was discovered after the original production of this video. I just discovered this. I don't know why I didn't think to check this before, but the date that Pope Benedict resigned, I mean, this is so obvious, I should have checked this. He resigned on February 11th, 2013, and it was a prophetic sign, or rather God confirmed the prophetic importance of this with the fact that right after he resigned on this date, lightning struck St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican twice, right after he resigned, which of course led to the Antichrist Pope Francis becoming the Pope shortly after this. Okay, so this date that Benedict stepped down due to his age and ability to perform his duties is 1,103% of a year to the date it is predicted that Joseph Biden will resign and step down due to his age and ability to perform his duties. And again, it's Joseph Ratzinger to Joseph Biden, and the Benedict is an anagram for Biden, as I explained earlier. And again, the reason why it is 113% of a year between Benedict's death and the date it is predicted that Joe Biden will step down is that Joseph in the Bible was the 11th son of the third patriarch. And so from Joseph Ratzinger's death to Joseph Biden stepping down, it is 113% of a year, which hints at 11 and 3 because of the 11th son of the third patriarch, Joseph. And from Joseph Ratzinger's resignation to the predicted resignation of Joseph Biden, it is 1,103%, which hints at 11 and 3 and the 11th son of the third patriarch, Joseph. But not only that, also, as I explained already, before this connection was even known, we have all of this 9/11 symbolism that God has used in connecting the two events through, as I explained, the 11th month, 19th day, 11/19, and the 11 months and 19 days connection, and on, as I explained. The 1 month and 19 days connection, as I explained. Well, this is also the equivalent of exactly 11 years and 9 months. Sorry, that should say 9 days. Okay, so 11 years and 9 days from Joseph Ratzinger's resignation to the predicted resignation of Joseph Biden. That's obviously another hint at 9/11. Now, I've also added this into the diagram because I think I should add it here rather than make a separate video explaining this, because it's just this connection here. And that is that this important Democrat senator, who really for a period ruled the Senate, because the Senate is split, and this Joseph Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, is a true moderate. Although he is a Democrat, he's not in line with the other Democrats. So he was often in the news because of his role in passing laws. He played a kingmaker role, okay? So his name is Joseph, and this is the day that he said that he wouldn't run again in the next election. He resigned. And then on this same day, Joseph Biden, because of the two of them being senators for like decades, Joseph Manchin is a longtime senator. So because of Joseph Manchin and his history in the Senate, it was worthy of Joseph Biden issuing a statement on that day commending his former colleague, or colleague you could say still, for his work in the Senate over the years. Anyway, Joseph Biden wrote a statement regarding Joseph Manchin's resignation, which made it a sign that points to Joseph Biden's predicted resignation. The date that Joseph Manchin resigned was 11/9, another hint at 9/11. And this date is 3 months and 11 days to the date it is predicted that Joseph Biden will resign. Joseph Manchin resigned 3 months and 11 days before it is predicted that Joseph Biden will resign, and that's because the 11th son of the third patriarch is named Joseph. I'm saying all of this is stunning confirmation. In fact, it's a fact for me. For me, it's a fact. Joseph Biden will step down. In my mind, it's impossible that he will not step down on this day, given all of the confirmations in this video alone. There's tons more than this that are explained in other videos, but just on this video alone. There's one more thing to add here too, which I can't fit into the diagram, which is that 2 days later, on the date 11/11, the Pope, Antichrist, Pope Francis, who was made Pope because of Joseph Ratzinger's resignation, fired one of his top bishops in the U.S., which makes this a judgment sign on America, Joseph Strickland. Joseph Strickland, the famous Catholic bishop that has been criticizing the Vatican and the Pope for being essentially unchristian, not essentially for being unchristian, for being Antichrist, but I don't think he's ever called him Antichrist, but he is the Antichrist. Anyway, Joseph Strickland was highly critical of the Vatican and the Pope, and then the Pope fired him on that day, the date 11/11, and that day is 101 days, which hints at 11, to the date it is predicted that Joseph Biden will step down. And that's Joseph Strickland to Joseph Biden. Now, 101 is the 26th prime number, and in Hebrew gematria, the name of the Lord in the Bible, Yahweh, is equal to 26. But also, these 11s are 9/11 symbolism. The date 11/11 plus 101 days. And that's because on 9/11, it was Flight 11 with a crew of 11 people that flew into the Twin Towers that looked like a giant 11 in New York State, the 11th state to join the Union in New York City, a city's name made of 11 letters. And all of this is because Jesus coined the phrase the 11th hour, which in ancient Israel referred to the last hour of daylight before darkness, and in English is an idiom that means last chance, time is running out, as in the 9/11 events being the last chance, time is running out, warning for America to repent and turn back to God before judgment destruction. Okay, so anyway, so we have another, firing. It's not exactly a resignation, but Joseph Strickland, stunning connection to Joseph Biden stepping down and being replaced with the Antichrist. And Strickland was fired by the first of the two Antichrists that are described in the book of Revelation. Pope Francis is the first, and Barack Obama is the second of the two Antichrists. And again, these two Antichrists will come to power through these prophetic resignations by men named Joseph. One thing that I forgot to add here earlier too is that on the day that Pope Benedict died was the beginning of the flooding in California. If you recall, last winter, which began on this date, so January of 2023, was this flooding all over California and mudslides and epic, unusual rainfall throughout California. Well, it all began on this date. This was the day that roads were closed and mudslides and flooding began in the first of the cities, because it didn't happen everywhere in California all at once. It first happened in San Francisco. And this was the day that Pope Benedict died, and again, his death led to the rise of the Antichrist, Pope Francis. That's why this happened. There was a lot. I'm missing some of the prophetic details, I'm sure. Just don't have time to go back into it. But the flooding and rain and all of that in California throughout that winter and into even the summer, and including, for example, the rain that hit the exodus of the Burning Man prophetic sign and all that, that all began on this date. And it began in San Francisco, and that's because Francis is the Antichrist, and he came to power through the resignation of Benedict, who died on this date. All right, there are a couple more astounding connections to this date, 11/19, regarding Joe Biden that God has used. And so I will just take a minute to explain them. But keep in mind, because I'm going to move away from the diagram into a typed paragraph that I wrote. But keep in mind again that this date 11/19 connects with the date it is predicted that Joe Biden will step down. This was, again, a step in the trail of signs leading to the date that it is predicted that Joe Biden will step down and Michelle Obama will become the president. And that is why the connections that I will now explain regarding Joe Biden to this date 11/19. This is from an email that I wrote back in October 26th. In Bible prophecy, the Antichrist's number is 666. 171 is the 18th triangular number, and 18 equals 6 plus 6 plus 6. Biden is predicted to step down and when I say that, I'm talking about 11/19. Because this was written before 11/19, and at that time, it was not known that 11/19 would only be a step in the trail of signs leading to the predicted date that Joe Biden will step down. That said, it was known before 11/19 that it wouldn't be the date that Joe Biden would step down, and that it would only be a step. All right. Biden is predicted to step down 171 days later. In other words, 11/19 was 171 days after Joe Biden fell down as he was stepping off the stage, which hints at stepping down, at the Air Force commencement speech. The 49th Vice President is predicted to die in her Air Force Two plane due to a bird strike, and the Air Force commencement speech was located at 4900 Falcon Boulevard. On the same day that he fell down, as he was stepping off the stage, Biden bumped his head as he was stepping off and disembarking his Marine One helicopter. As a result of Harris's predicted crash in her Air Force Two plane and Biden's predicted stepping down, Barack Obama will become the unelected 48th president. Biden fell down as he stepped off the stage and bumped his head as he disembarked his Marine One helicopter, exactly 48 years, which hints at the 48th president, after the only unelected, which hints at the 48th unelected president. It was 48 years exactly after the only unelected president, Gerald Ford, fell down the steps to his Air Force One plane as he was disembarking his plane. 48 years is 576 months, and the 576th word in Strong's Greek Bible Concordance is the word meaning to step off, disembark. Gerald Ford fell down multiple times that day on his visit with the leader of Egypt for talks regarding Israel. This is Antichrist symbolism because in the Bible, the king or leader of Egypt is a type, a foreshadow for the Antichrist. And likewise, exactly 48 years later, Biden had multiple falls and bumps. This is really amazing. That's an understatement, okay? So I read it, quite calmly, but this is truly beyond words amazing. I'll just repeat this. The only unelected president, Gerald Ford, is a hint at how Obama will become the unelected president. And by the way, this is the reason for Harrison Ford and his aviation mishaps. Harrison Ford is the name of two presidents, and one of them is Ford, and the reason for that is because Barack Obama will become the unelected president, just like Gerald Ford, through a aviation mishap. And speaking of aviation mishaps, Gerald Ford, the only unelected president until Barack Obama will, in the near future, become the unelected president. The only unelected president fell down his steps to his Air Force One plane, and this was exactly 48 years before Joe Biden bumped his head as he disembarked his Marine One helicopter. And it was the same day that he delivered his commencement speech at the Air Force, in which he fell down as he was disembarking the stage. So that's astounding too, because 576 months is 48 years, and in the Greek Bible Concordance, the word meaning to step off, disembark, is this word. And that's exactly what happened. 576 months after Gerald Ford disembarked his Air Force plane and fell down the steps was the day that Joe Biden bumped his head and fell down at the Air Force commencement speech, and he bumped his head as he disembarked his Marine One helicopter. Okay, there's actually a ton more to all of this story and prophetic sign, which is explained in the Damar Hamlin prophecy video. I had to title it something. It's connected to so many other things. But one of the things that it is connected to, Gerald Ford, the football president, is the falling down of Damar Hamlin, the Buffalo Bills player that fell down due to a heart attack on the field during a game. There's a lot to this. And the true prophetic explanation for why Damar Hamlin fell down is explained only in the Damar Hamlin prophecy video on this channel. All right, here's another prophetic story God is telling through Joe Biden and this date 11/19 in 2023 that I am explaining. The 25th Amendment was used to make Gerald Ford the president, the only unelected president. After Harris's predicted death in an airplane crash, the 25th Amendment will be used to make Michelle and Barack the president. Biden is predicted to step down. Well, okay, now again, this was a step. Anyway, 11/19 hints at 9/11, and it was exactly 25 months after a prophetic plane crash in Harris County in Texas on 10/19, which also hints at 9/11 in 2021. There were 6 plus 6 plus 6 passengers, Antichrist symbolism, and 3 were injured. 18 divided by 3 is also 6, hinting at the 3 sixes. In Bible prophecy, a period of 62 weeks regards the timing of the Antichrist in the most central prophecy in the book of Daniel. The plane crash in Harris County on 10/19/2021 was exactly, and by the way, I haven't even explained all of the details of this prophetic sign, which would confirm it even more. Okay, but anyway, it was exactly 62 weeks after Biden announced that Harris would be his running mate. So the big Biden-Harris day was August 11th, 2020, and that was exactly 62 weeks before the plane crash in Harris County. And again, 62 weeks is very relevant. Furthermore, in that prophecy, the 62 weeks is followed by a 7 weeks, and exactly 7 weeks after the plane crash in Harris County. By the way, the plane was on its way to the playoff game between the Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox, and that game was known for the 7 runs that were scored in the 9th inning, and on and on and on and on. But anyway, 7 weeks exactly after the 7 runs and the 62 weeks connection was December 7th, 2021, and the signs on that date confirmed all of it. I'm not going to explain it though, but the point is that this 62 weeks is in fact followed by a 7 weeks connection, which gives us the total of 69 weeks, which is what the prophecy in Daniel chapter 9 is all about. This 62 weeks followed by 7 weeks for a total of 69 weeks before the 70th week of the end times period and the period of the Antichrist. Okay, so that's just more confirmation for the relevance of this 62 weeks connection. In other words, okay, so now the 62 weeks connects back to the Biden-Harris day, the big day when Biden announced who his running mate would be. And that date, August 11th, 2020, was exactly 23 weeks, which is the equivalent of 44% of a year. And God pairs 44 and 23 together to confirm his signs and connections, because the 44th president wore jersey number 23 in high school. Okay, and so it was exactly 23 weeks after 25 people were killed in the tornado in Nashville that knocked out power for 44,000 people on the same day that a fireball flew right over the Capitol building where the 25th Amendment will be used. In other words, this was a sign. There's more to this, of course, which I can't explain here, regarding Nashville and the tornado, etc. It all points back to the Super Tuesday tornado outbreak on the day that Barack Obama pulled away from Hillary Clinton, and on and on and on, actually. Okay, so anyway, on this day, which was 3/3, March 3rd, 2020, this tornado killed 25 people, and it was the same day as the fireball that flew over the Capitol building, which is where the 25th Amendment will be used. And God uses frequently 23 weeks connections in his signs. This was exactly 23 weeks to the day that Biden announced Harris, which then led to the plane crash in Harris County. And all of this was all amazing prophetic signs communicating that the 44th president, hence the 44,000 people without power, will become the president again through a plane crash that will kill Kamala Harris and Joe Biden stepping down. So that's the huge connection here again. So I'll just draw it out for you one more time. From the tornado, 23 weeks to Biden-Harris Day, which is 62 weeks to the plane crash, which is 25 months. Speaking of the 25th Amendment and the 25 people killed in the tornado, it is 25 months to 11/19, and in the diagram, as I just showed, 11/19 connects to the date that it is predicted that Joe Biden will step down. Now, I think I have explained fully this truly profound diagram. When this prediction comes to pass, make sure that you come back to this video. If you're watching it after the prediction, make sure that you share this video nonstop and don't ever stop sharing this video everywhere you go in social media. In fact, if you are a Christian, look to chapter 25 of Matthew and the bags of gold parable. What did Jesus say to the Christian that had a bag of gold and did nothing with it? He was banished to hell. So much for once saved, always saved. Let that be a warning for you. This is a bag of gold. To do nothing with this would be truly terrible. I'm warning you to not do any, to stay away from not doing anything with it. In fact, work very, very hard to get this information out. This prediction that is being made in advance, nothing compares to it. It proves everything. It proves the Bible. It proves that Jesus is the Lord. Keep sharing this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video. And once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more. Don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.